This is Northwest Focus, a public affairs presentation of KNMT. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views of KNMT or the Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Good morning. Welcome to Northwest Focus. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a great program lined up for you, and we have a really delightful guest. I like her. She drives a really cute Mini Cooper. I always tell her that. It's so cute. It is. My guest today is Tiffany Tucker. And Tiffany, hello. You are the program manager. I'm telling you what you are. Don't you love that? The program manager for Insight Teen Parent Services. Mm-hmm. And that's a sub-program of Janus Youth, isn't it?
Yes. Insights has been providing services to young parents in Multnomah County since 1979. Wow. As our own nonprofit, and in 2008 we merged with Janus Youth Programs for financial stability purposes, and we had a very similar mission. So we're much stronger now as a result.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you for coming today. You know, you do a really great work there. But you mentioned something to me at the beginning of the program before we went on air about the teen pregnancy rate. Mm-hmm. And could you tell us what you wanted to share?
Yeah. So the teen pregnancy rate is the lowest it's been nationally ever since it's been recorded in the U.S. And in Multnomah County in particular, I was looking at the figures before I came, and for 10 to 17-year-olds, which doesn't include 18 and 19-year-olds, who certainly make up the largest portion of teen parents, the pregnancy rate in Multnomah County since the year 2000 has dropped 70%.
That's unbelievable. I shouldn't say unbelievable. It is believable, but it's like astounding. Yeah. But what can we attribute that 70% drop to?
People generally give credit to a pretty big cultural shift that happened in the mid-2000s with increased comprehensive sex education in schools and access to contraception, certainly. There's a variety of factors, I'm sure, but those are the two big ones that people generally credit that to.
You know, when you mentioned 10 to 17, I think for somebody my age, and maybe for our viewers, I don't know, it's really staggering to think of a 10-year-old having, being in a situation where they're facing parenthood. Is that common?
No, it's not common now. It's never really been common. And without question, a 10-year-old who's in a situation to be pregnant or parenting, it's definitely child abuse. Yeah, it's very uncommon.
This might be kind of a delicate question I'm going to ask, and if you don't have an answer that you'd like to give, I mean, I totally understand that, but when it comes to teen pregnancy, I know culturally there's different accepted norms, and as we begin to have different cultures in our society, does that play a role in teen pregnancy, or you can't even?
So of course, the teen pregnancy rate as a whole has dropped in the way that it has, and it's across all populations for Latina mothers and for African American young mothers, Caucasian, Native American, for everybody. The rate hasn't dropped kind of at the same level, certainly for Latina mothers or African American mothers. And generally speaking, I think in Latina cultures, early childbearing is not uncommon, though across populations, the rate has dropped considerably.
Yeah, and I mean, that must be difficult, when you are coming to a different culture. What is an accepted norm in one place may not be in another, but it's really great that there are services there. So when it comes to teen parents, what exactly does your program provide?
So we have 8 different programs. Each has its own eligibility requirements and outcome goals, certainly, and different funding sources, all those things. But they can broadly be defined as child development and parent education, or housing related, housing and life skills related, or intensive services with young moms and dads who are in foster care or whose children are in foster care. So all of our services, and this is an important distinction to make, I'm learning over the years, because I have just always made this assumption, all of our services are home visiting based. So there's not much that happens in our office ever. But we have 21 staff currently, 15 of whom are home visitors who are driving all around to homes and shelters and coffee shops and McDonald's all over Multnomah County, providing in-home services.
So are these young people that find themselves in the family way, do they have their own stable home life, or is there kind of an upset in their own home life, and that's why I don't want to say they're in the situation, because pregnancy is not a bad thing, every child is blessed, but what is the home life that they've come from like?
Certainly of a variety. I would say, generally speaking, certainly not a lot of involvement with their fathers. I can't think of many situations where the father of the teen parent like lived in the household. So it's not called a generational phenomenon for like no reason. A lot of young parents have single mothers. There's a pretty significant issue with housing in general, but certainly with young parents, for all the reasons I think people can probably imagine. Even if you have a reasonably stable home, lots of times mothers aren't that excited when they learn that their teenage daughters are pregnant. So there can be quite a rupture in the relationship. That's pretty significant. So sometimes it's really good for the family to have time to be apart, because sometimes mothers and daughters just can't get it together.
That's so sad, because that's what where we're supposed to learn our parenting skills, and so you may have these young girls or young guys, and it's wonderful that the teen fathers are getting involved too. But they're in some ways children themselves.
Oh yeah.
So what is the biggest? And maybe there isn't a biggest, but what is one of the biggest challenges of being a teen parent? And obviously the younger you are, the more difficult it would be. I mean, do you drop out of high school? Is it money? Is it education? What is it?
All of the above. Tracing back, going through all of the factors: education, stability, education, childcare. It's difficult for anyone to make it very far in our current economy in a very successful way if you don't have pretty stable employment, certainly stable housing. And it's really difficult to finish school or finish even high school, obtain a GED or get any kind of further education without childcare. So, though there are several high school programs that do have childcare available for young parents, there certainly is not enough to meet the need. And then that's a resource that's really lacking at kind of the community college level or even university level, which we think more in terms of community college, locally based. But childcare is a significant factor. Stable, reliable childcare.
So where's your role in all of this? I mean, a teenager comes to you, they're in the family way, a young girl finds out she's pregnant. What are the steps that they have to go through to get help from your services?
So we are pretty well connected. We've been very fortunate to kind of grow up with the public health system in Multnomah County. So we are part of a very elaborate referral system where people who deliver in a hospital, whether it's you or me or someone who's 15, will be asked a series of questions, and based on our answers to most of the time, they don't catch everybody, but they catch most everybody. We're asked a series of questions, and then based on the answers to those questions would be referred to a home visiting program kind of based on a variety of profile questions. And anyone who pretty much is 19 or under gets sent our direction. So we're very well connected in that way. But we've been around so long that school programs, the child welfare system sends a lot of families our way. So what we do is when we get the information about a young mother or father who's interested in some kind of supportive services, or they don't know yet that they're interested, we do everything we can to contact them, which these days looks a lot more like sending text messages.
Oh, wow.
It's changed so dramatically just in the last few years. Yeah.
So how, and first of all, I apologize for my, I don't want to say the word ignorance, but I guess it is an ignorance because I don't know how this works. Say you had a young mother, and who tells her how she has to raise that child? Does the government ever get involved and say, no, we need to take away the child? Like how does that work?
Yeah, well, people don't get involved in telling anyone how to parent, really. I think with young parents it's no different than with older parents. It's kind of family of origin. You do what you think you should do. You do what's familiar. There isn't anything age-related necessarily that has to do with state involvement. People who are home visitors, people who are all kinds of professionals working with young people are all mandatory reporters, and so do have to report to child welfare incidences of child abuse or neglect or intent to harm. That doesn't happen that often. Mm-hmm. Certainly, and I have all of the mandatory reports that we have made at Insights for the last 10 years in a drawer, and it's pretty small. It's a pretty small pile, I should say.
Yeah.
The number of reports for actual abuse are pretty low. It generally trends more toward what would be considered probably neglect. And often intimate partner violence.
And that was the next thing that I know we wanted to discuss was intimate partner violence. First of all, tell us how prevalent that is. And
Yeah. So in the 8 different programs that we have, the populations are slightly different. And in our homeless housing program, the rates that we were noticing of moms who were involved in violent relationships was up to 80-85%. Mm-hmm. And then in our program that's specifically for moms who are in foster care, whose children are in foster care, nearly all of them had experienced either witnessing violence or most often their children, in fact, were in foster care because of their own violent relationship. So around 2010, I guess, is when we made a big kind of culture shift, having observed this for a while, needing to do something about it. It was the same time the Affordable Care Act came and did all kinds of things. I learn every day about things the Affordable Care Act did, or does. One of which was a mandated screening for intimate partner violence in health clinic settings, hospitals, all kinds of places where women would be alone with arguably a trusted provider. And Insights received some of the federal funds from the Affordable Care Act, so we had to begin doing this kind of new screening. Mm-hmm. So we had these great people come give us their training on the generally accepted curriculum that was to be used nationally in home visiting programs, which really are people who sought a career in early childhood development and now are being told they need to begin having discussions about intimate partner violence and doing screenings, which it's a different skill set for sure. So they came, they trained us in so many things, because there's a curriculum for everything. It didn't necessarily apply to the distinct differences of being an adolescent parent as to being an adult parent, really. So primarily one supervisor at Insights has worked with an evaluation team from Portland State University to develop our own curriculum to be used in home visiting settings with young families who may be experiencing intimate partner violence. And it looks a lot more like, and the language used is much more around healthy relationships. Mm-hmm. So they're really fun, really simple activities just to get little seeds planted, little esteem seeds planted, basically. Mm-hmm. Activities include listening to a song that everybody knows from the radio, and there's this kind of cool form that is set up like a nutrition label from a box of food. Mm-hmm. And there will be things like aggression and respect or different things that are characteristics of either a healthy or unhealthy relationship. And you listen with the young mom to the song, and they make hash marks to each of these things. And at the end of it, it helps facilitate a discussion on what popular culture is feeding them about what is healthy and what isn't.
And when we're so limited on time, we've just got a few seconds here, but it seems discouraging in some way, but yet on the other hand, so rewarding, because there's so much promise in some of these young parents, and we shouldn't always assume the worst. What is something you would like to quickly share with our viewers about teen parenting services? Oh my goodness. Well, one of our awesome little taglines that we've hung on to forever is that we do this work because we believe that young parents can be great parents. Yeah. And I feel like all staff have to genuinely kind of carry that belief. Yeah. Young people are notorious at sensing anything that is disingenuine. So we believe, and we want everyone to understand that young parents really can be great parents, and they love their children as much as And that's
everyone
a
else.
good word. And thank you for helping the community. You're helping our
Yes.
community become healthier too.
pleasure.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you for joining us on Northwest Focus. We will see you again next time. Good morning. Welcome to Northwest Focus, or good afternoon, whatever part of the day you may be watching. Thank you for joining us on Northwest Focus. I'm your host, Bonnie Goulding, and today we are going to be talking about youth and crime. And there's a very hopeful message in the program that we have for you today. We'd like to introduce you to our guest, Jack Davidson. Jack is the program director for Annex 1, 2, and Hope Partnership with the Janus Youth Programs. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, this is a pretty interesting, not your title, program director, but Annex 1, 2, and Hope Partnership. What is it exactly that you do?
So what I'm privileged to do, actually, is the Hope Partnership is a Janus program that operates inside McLaren's Youth Correctional Institution, which is part of the Oregon Youth Authority system. And years and years ago, we seen that there was a gap in youth transitioning from the system institutions to these programs on the outside. Mm-hmm. And so the thing about Hope Partnership is that they get to go inside and work with clients or youth prior to their release and help them somewhat normalize community activity, because the more community activity that the clients are acquainted with or comfortable with, the better the chance that they're not going to end up back inside the institution.
When you, and we want to clarify, when you say clients, we are talking about the young men or women who had been incarcerated or in the institution itself.
Correct.
How, for a lot of these young people that are, is it right to, I don't want, is it right to say not institutionalized?
It's fair to say that they become institutionalized.
It is fair.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of them have probably been there for several years.
Absolutely.
So their normal is very abnormal to the rest of it, to the rest of us. Mm-hmm. So what are you finding is some of the biggest needs that they have in reintegrating them successfully into society?
Well, I mean, it's a merit. You take a person, any person, a young person, old person, and you put them in a facility where the structure is imposed and the schedule is imposed. And what we find with our young people is first off, they're not experiencing the social growth that mm-hmm. they would normally experience, and the frontal lobe growth, not to get scientific, but the planning, the prioritizing, the processing, the making decisions, that doesn't get exercised very well, especially for young people whose brains are in development. And so they'll come out to us and they don't know how to catch the bus. They don't know how to apply for a job. They don't. They're used to lining up for their meal. And so there's a whole bunch of different things that are missing. And that's where behavior rehabilitation services, and I'll refer to it as BRS, is a process. So they come out of these institutions to perhaps a residential program and start to learn to perform these tasks on their own. And then 8 years ago, well, for longer than that, we've seen a need that there was a gap. So you can take people and you can teach them a lot of stuff, but if you don't let them exercise that or practice then there's no practical application.
Right.
That's when BRS 3 services got established. And Janus Youth Programs is the first. We streamlined. We did the whole prototype on BRS 3 services. So now we take a young man and put him in an apartment setting or a house setting and really start helping them work those practical skills.
For people who maybe I'll say naysayers, they may say, well, we had to support these young kids in the institution. Now we have to support them here. But the truth is, by doing this, you are reducing the rate of recidivism, and you are creating a successful citizen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So in the end, you're saving not only money, but you're saving society greater stress factors.
Well, part of my task is to create a safer community,
Right.
and so I get to approach that task at the same time. And here's the thing about our young people who get incarcerated, and I'm not. Some mature older folks too, but so these kids come from environments where they learn unhealthy ways to get their needs met. They're not bad kids. They learn these unhealthy ways to get their needs met. They're not taken care of. They don't have clean clothes. They don't have food. So they learn how to get that need met. Now, if we can get them in our environment and make it a familial kind of setting, and help them learn to get their needs met in a healthy way, we can change that whole brain structure. We can change how they perceive the world even. So if we have a young person and we just let them out of an institution and nobody's worked with them in a practical way on how to meet those needs, I can assure you what's going to happen.
Well, and you know, when you do think about it, what we take for granted, like, you know, the very simple thing that you said, catching a bus, that might be frightening for them. Would it stand to reason that if these skills and these adjustments and these integrations back into society weren't taken care of by nature or for comfort, they might be repeat offenders to go back to a place that they were taken care of?
Well, in fact, it's human nature. I mean, you have needs. There are needs,
Right.
And if those needs aren't met, you're going to seek out ways to meet those needs. To love, to be loved, to have food, to have shelter, to just even the primal stuff. And the idea is if we can't teach folks how to do that in a healthy way, I can assure you what'll happen, and there's no way around it, because the brain is the brain. It's going to go reptilian,
Right.
And you're going to go back into the survival mode, and then it's just going to be what it's going to be.
What age group are you working with?
For my purposes, I'm working with 17 and a half to 24 and a half year old young men.
Right.
So these young men, in Oregon Youth Authority, in the Oregon system, you can stay in the juvenile system until age 25, which is appropriate, because that's
Right.
about when the brain development piece is supposed to finish playing out for them. So I'll start talking to a young man who's in the institution perhaps ahead of time, and start to kind of feel where they are and what their needs might be. And we have all kinds of application packets and other things that we go through with these guys before we make a determination to bring them to our program. But 17 and a half, I would work with younger folks. However, contractually, our BRS3 programs are supposed to only last 6 months in program and then move out. And because you have to be 18 to get a house, that puts my particular population age range at a minimum of 17 and a half.
Do many of these young men have family to go back to, or was the family pretty well shattered and that's why they got into the problems that they did?
The young men that I work with, if they had family that was what could be deemed as safe and healthy, would probably in fact go back to those families. So the answer is no, they don't have. We do have an opportunity to do some corrective work with families that have maybe also some unhealthy behaviors or ideas about how to get needs met while the client is with us. And we do have sessions with client and parents. But pretty typically, our real goal, our real charge here is to help these young men be independent and create healthy relationships for themselves. And I'm sad to say, in a lot of cases, we have to teach them how to love their family from a distance because the families aren't that healthy.
Yeah.
But the boys can get healthy. I say boys because that's what I work with. they can get healthy, and I see it all the time. And they come back years later and thank us. And
Well, it may be the first time in a very long time that they've had someone really want to invest in them and believe in them. And it's amazing what the human spirit can do when it knows that someone believes in them.
it is outstanding, and that's part of the blessing in my work.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can only plant seeds, and we do the best we can with that. But it's so common for me, I don't know about other people who do what I do, but to have guys coming back and bringing their families and their kids and saying, hey, you know, I didn't really believe you so much maybe when I was here, but, you know, I practiced this and I practiced. We do financing, we do cooking, we do you name it, you know, and especially our younger population seem to have be parenting or trying to be parenting. Mm-hmm. We make it very easy for them to have their children visit them while they're at our program.
That's really important. We had done a segment with Tiffany Tucker, I think she's one of your colleagues, about teen parenting. And you know, just that love connection that would be there for these young men, you know, to have with their children. When it comes to gainful employment for young men that are coming out of institution, do you have businesses in that you work with that are willing to take some of these young guys under their wing?
We do. It's not a large pool, but keep this in mind. The young men who are coming to us haven't had jobs before, and so to think that they're going to end up at, you know, one of the large companies in the area is one thing. So what we want to do is we want to get them started, just get in the job market, because they got to start building a little bit of a history. But we do have places who take our young men on.